3 days. That's all I had left. Just 3 days till my pension kicked in. It was a Friday afternoon, slow and quiet, and I'd just finished updating the equipment logs when the front desk called. Said Todd Kerrigan wanted to see me upstairs. The second I stepped into his office and saw that yellow folder sitting dead center on his desk, I knew exactly what was coming. My name's Darren Weller. I'm 62 years old. I live in Bloomington, Minnesota. I'd worked at Holton Industrial Systems for 29 years, never missed a payroll deadline, never once walked out early. Todd Kerrigan, Mr. Efficiency Consultant, had been there maybe 6 months. You know the type. Expensive suit, smooth hands, eyes like he's always analyzing profit margins in his head. Didn't even offer me a seat, just stood behind his desk like this was some routine meeting. You've been with us a long time, Darren. 29 years, right? I said. 29 years and 361 days. He didn't flinch, didn't smile, just slid the folder forward. Due to budget constraints, we're letting you go, effective immediately. No warning, no real explanation. And definitely no eye contact. I didn't argue, didn't give him the satisfaction. I picked up the folder and gave a slow nod. My stomach was tight, but my voice didn't shake. Got it. That folder didn't hold any budget crisis. It held one thing, a cost-saving strategy to screw me out of my full pension. I could see it plain as day. Cut the old guy 3 days early, save a few $100,000 on the books. Downstairs, I grabbed a cardboard box and started clearing out my desk. The Polaroid of my wife and me at the North Shore, the little Steelers helmet my son gave me in '98, the dumb coffee mug that said old but not obsolete. Cheryl from HR stood by the door, her eyes red. She looked like she'd been crying. "I'm sorry, Darren," she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. It is what it is. But we both knew that was a lie. It wasn't just cold. It was calculated, strategic, and illegal as hell. While you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. I walked out of Holton's front doors carrying nearly 30 years of loyalty in a busted old printer box. And that was the moment I stopped trusting any of them. I set the box down in my garage and shut the trunk. I didn't go inside right away. Just stood there for a second, breathing. I wasn't panicking, not yet. But I knew I was on a clock. They'd fired me on a Friday. That was strategic. Gives them the weekend to tighten bolts, wipe drives, erase anything they think I could use against them. Thing is, I'd already been 10 steps ahead. I walked down into the basement, behind the furnace, and opened the cabinet where I kept my tax folders. Behind 2018 was a gray fireproof lockbox. I hadn't touched it in years. When I cracked it open, the weight of what was inside hit me like a brick. Over 1,000 pages. Invoices with numbers that didn't match the inventory reports. QA logs that had been edited weeks after final testing. Shipment records with altered timestamps. And emails. Dozens of emails from Todd and his little cleanup crew. Always vague, always implying, we need these numbers to align, or let's adjust that date so it's audit compliant. I didn't start collecting this stuff because I wanted to take anyone down. Hell, I love that company. I gave it my life. But when Todd showed up with his smooth-talking, spreadsheet-spinning ways, something felt off. And every time he leaned on me to approve something that didn't add up, I'd nod, smile, and quietly save a copy for myself, just in case. I stacked the papers into fresh binders, 4 years of quiet documentation, organized by type and date. I didn't call a lawyer. I called Gregory Baines. He picked up after 2 rings. "Darren? Yeah, long time." He paused. "You okay? I've got something you're going to want to see. You still at Holton?" "Not anymore." That got his full attention. "What happened?" "They fired me, Friday. Said it was budget cuts. But I know better, and so do they." I could hear him exhale. "You have documentation?" "I've got 4 years' worth. Emails, reports, logs, all of it. I never deleted a thing." "You still in Bloomington?" "Yeah." He didn't hesitate. "Come in Monday, bring everything." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "You still with the SEC?" "I run enforcement strategy for the Midwest now." "Well," I said, "you're about to get real busy." After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote out a timeline, just to get it clear in my own head. There was the 2019 safety audit where they scrubbed the failure reports before submitting to the feds, the 2020 contract deal with Vanto Supply, where they billed for double inventory and shipped half, and the 2021 retroactive QA approvals, signed off 2 months after the product hit shelves. Todd hadn't started it, but he leaned into it hard. And when I wouldn't sign my name to his games, he knew I was a problem, and problems get removed. That's what this was. Not budget cuts, not restructuring, just removal. I printed off 2 more copies of everything, one for Gregory, one for me, and I locked the originals back in the box. By the time I finished, it was close to midnight. I didn't sleep much, didn't even try. I just sat in my chair by the window, binder on my lap, flipping page after page. They thought I'd take the hit and walk away quiet. They thought they could erase me before the pension clock struck midnight. They picked the wrong guy. By sunrise Saturday, I was already back in the basement. I went over every document again, just to make sure it was clean. Labeled, indexed, dated. No gaps, no missing files. Then I made 3 full sets, printed, hole-punched, and stacked into heavy-duty binders. One copy went straight to FedEx with Gregory's name on it. Overnight delivery, signature required. The second copy stayed with me, locked back in the fireproof box. The third, I drove it down to Wells Fargo and dropped it in a deposit box under my daughter's name. That was insurance. Not for me, for her. I got back around noon, and that's when the calls started. First it was Cheryl from HR. Darren, hey, I just wanted to check in. There's a severance agreement waiting in your inbox. I saw it. If you sign before 5, you'll receive 12 weeks' salary, direct deposit. I know this was sudden, but why the rush? I asked. She hesitated. It's just standard policy for expedited terminations. Uh-huh. Next was Todd. He called twice. I ignored the first one, picked up on the second just to hear how desperate he sounded. Darren, look, I understand Friday came as a shock, but the severance package is extremely generous. Most guys in your position, I'm not most guys. There was a pause. We'd like to wrap this up clean. It's in everyone's best interest. Not mine. Clock's ticking, Darren. If we don't have your signature by 5, that offer comes off the table. I hung up. 10 minutes later, a lawyer from Holton's corporate office called. Mr. Weller, my name is Denise Kent. I represent Holton Industrial Systems. I wanted to confirm you received the release document sent to your email. I got it. She tried to sound casual. 12 weeks' pay is above industry standard, especially given the budget constraints. No pension, no medical, just hush money. I wouldn't characterize it that way. I just did. Click. They were circling, fast. I could feel it. They thought they had me cornered, thought if they kept the pressure up, I'd cave by the deadline. But I wasn't panicked. I was calm, almost too calm. Around 4:30, I looked out the front window and nearly laughed out loud. Todd, standing at the bottom of my porch steps, in some sleek black Mercedes like he was running for office. Darren, he called up, smiling like a damn politician. Can we talk for a minute? I didn't move, didn't open the door. He tried again. I just want to make sure you got the latest copy. We've added a few clarifications. I stayed where I was, let him talk to the screen door. After a couple minutes, he gave up and walked over to the mailbox, slid in a fresh envelope. Then he left. No wave, no goodbye. Inside the envelope was the same severance agreement, plus a sticky note with his neat little handwriting. Final offer. 9 a.m., Monday deadline. That was their last shot. They knew what I had, and they were scrambling. Monday morning, I parked across from the federal building in downtown Minneapolis and just sat there for a second, gripping the steering wheel. My briefcase was on the passenger seat. Inside were 4 binders and 30 years of everything I'd ever believed in about doing the job right. I walked through security, gave my name at the front desk, and within 5 minutes, Gregory came down to meet me. He looked older, heavier around the middle, but his eyes were sharp. Darren, he said, shaking my hand tight, appreciate you coming in. I'm not here to make noise, just want the truth on record. He nodded. You've got it. He led me up to the 6th floor. Plain beige walls, ceiling tiles humming under fluorescent lights. A windowless conference room with 3 chairs, a pitcher of water, and a legal pad in the center of the table. This is Angela Reyes, lead counsel on enforcement, he said as we stepped in. And James Nolan, forensic analysis. Angela was direct, no small talk. Thanks for meeting with us, Mr. Weller. We understand you brought materials. I set the briefcase down and opened it. 4 binders, organized by year and category. Everything's backed up digitally, too. James slid the first one toward him and flipped it open. I started walking them through it, beginning with the doctored QA reports from 2019. They failed the safety audit, I said. Twice. You'll see here? I pointed at the log. This version was the original report from engineering, but then, 2 weeks later, it was retroactively overwritten with cleaner numbers and resubmitted to regulators. Angela raised an eyebrow. And who signed off on that? Todd Kerrigan. And in the emails, you'll see him pushing for internal alignment before those reports were sent out. James was flipping fast now, his forehead wrinkling deeper by the minute. These invoice chains, the same order numbers appear across different clients? Yeah, double billing, sometimes triple. The shipments never matched. And this wasn't just one-off? No, it was patterned, quarter after quarter. Whenever numbers lagged behind forecast, they cooked something. Angela leaned forward. And you reported this internally? 17 times, different departments. I never made it loud, just flagged the inconsistencies, professionally, quietly. She glanced at Gregory. And they fired you last week? Friday, 3 days before my pension was fully vested. That was the moment everything shifted. James stopped flipping. Angela just looked over at him. This isn't sloppy, James muttered. It's strategic, coordinated, and it's been going on for years. Angela didn't blink. We're going to need copies of everything. Originals stay with you for now. Chain of custody is key. Gregory asked, You okay being part of this formally, Darren? I nodded. I'm not looking for revenge, but I'm not covering for them either. Angela stood. We'll be contacting Holton's legal counsel today. This won't sit quietly. You've done your part. We'll take it from here. By the time we wrapped up, 3 hours had passed. I walked out of that building feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the weight wasn't just mine anymore. Heavier because I knew what was coming next. They weren't just going to brush this off. I was halfway down I-35, driving back from the SEC office when my phone buzzed in the cup holder. Cheryl from HR. I picked up. Darren? Her voice was shaky. Something's going down. The board just called an emergency session. They've locked Todd in his office. Locked him in? Security's outside his door. No one's saying anything, but this isn't normal. Yeah, I said. It's not. I hung up without another word. Didn't need any more details. That building was a pressure cooker now, and the lid had just popped. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I had a new voicemail. Unknown number. I hit play. Mr. Weller, this is Mitchell Granger, chairman of Holton's board. I'd like to discuss revisiting the terms of your recent separation. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. Right. Now they wanted to talk. I forwarded the message straight to Barbara, the lawyer I'd quietly retained over the weekend. Then I called Mitchell back. I won't be discussing anything directly, I said. Any contact goes through my attorney, and you should probably loop in your own counsel and the SEC before this gets any uglier. Dead silence. Then he muttered, Understood. That was Monday. On Wednesday morning, I opened the local business paper while eating breakfast, and there it was. Front page, above the fold. Holton Industrial under SEC investigation for financial misreporting. The article didn't name me, but it didn't need to. Internal whistleblower. Sudden termination. Documented fraud. Anyone with half a brain could piece it together. Their stock dropped 22% by market close. Todd went from golden boy to radioactive. The kind of shift you could see in people's faces. Like they suddenly remembered he'd never earned any of it. That night, a certified letter showed up on my doorstep. I signed for it, took it inside, and opened it at the kitchen table. Notice of termination reversal, subject to internal review. They wanted to wipe the slate clean, pretend none of it happened, no firing, no security escort, just business as usual. I laughed out loud. They didn't want me back. They wanted to avoid a retaliation charge. They wanted to stall the SEC. I poured a glass of bourbon, stared at the letter for a minute, then slid it across the table to Barbara. She smirked. So, now they remember who you are. Yeah, I said. Little late for that. Friday morning, I stepped out of the elevator at Holton's HQ with Barbara at my side, heels clicking like a metronome on the polished tile. The same security guy who'd marched me out the week before stood by the glass doors. This time, he opened them with a nod and said, Good morning, Mr. Weller. I didn't nod back, just walked past him into the same building that had tried to erase me. Up on the executive floor, they had a conference room prepped, frosted windows, bottled water, legal pads nobody would touch. Mitchell Granger sat at the head of the table. Next to him were 3 directors, Jenkins, Lower, and some new guy I didn't recognize. None of them looked rested. Todd wasn't there. Of course. Mitchell stood halfway as we walked in. "Darren, thank you for coming." Barbara spoke before I could. "Let's skip the pleasantries. You requested this meeting. What's your offer?" He cleared his throat. "First, let me say, we value your years of service. You've been an asset to this company." I almost laughed. Barbara didn't blink. "Mr. Weller did his job. He flagged systemic fraud, and your company fired him for it. That's not appreciation, that's retaliation." Mitchell shifted in his seat. "We'd like to offer full reinstatement, effective immediately. You'll retain your pension benefits, plus medical for life. We'd also like to discuss a potential consulting role to ease the transition into retirement." I leaned forward. "Let me ask something." He nodded, cautious. "When I sent 17 reports, internally, discreetly, flagging these issues over the years, why didn't anyone act?" The room went still. Lauer stared down at his legal pad. Jenkins scratched the side of his neck. The new guy just blinked like he'd walked into the wrong room. Mitchell cleared his throat again, but didn't answer. "Right," I said. "So it wasn't just Todd. You all let it ride, until someone finally stood up." Barbara looked at me. I gave her a small nod. "I'll cooperate with your internal review," I said, "but I'll also continue speaking with the SEC. That's not negotiable." Jenkins looked up finally. "We're trying to fix this, Darren." "You're trying to contain it," I said. "Big difference." Mitchell forced a smile. "We just want to move forward." "You don't get to decide that anymore," Barbara said. "From this point on, my client's cooperation depends entirely on transparency, access, and good faith. No more behind-the-scenes deals, no more pressure." "Understood," Mitchell said. Barbara stood, signaling we were done. I followed. As we walked out, I glanced at the empty seat at the far end. Todd's chair, still warm probably, but vacant. Where it belonged. By Sunday morning, Todd was on the news, not just quoted. Full sit-down interview on some business segment nobody watched until clips started hitting the internet. "Mr. Kerrigan, what do you make of the SEC investigation?" the host asked. He gave this smug little shrug. "Look, I can't speak to the agency's process, but I can say, when I joined Holton, there were people resistant to change. Darren Weller was one of them, a disgruntled legacy employee with performance concerns going back years." I turned off the TV. My daughter Kayla called 5 minutes later, voice sharp and heated. "Dad, are you seeing this crap? He's making you sound like some washed-up old man who couldn't keep up." I laughed. "Let him talk. He's lying." "I know. That's the best part. Because what Todd didn't know was that I'd been holding one last card, something I'd set aside. Not because I forgot, but because I was being careful. A sealed envelope, tucked in a separate deposit box under Kayla's name. It had nothing to do with Todd directly, but it blew the whole operation wide open. Emails from 2015 and 2016, before Todd was ever on payroll. Communications between board members about balancing post-merger forecasts and strategically realigning revenue projections to meet investor expectations. That was their language. Mine was simpler, cooked books. I'd held off using those because I didn't want to blur the story. But now that Todd was spinning his version, fine, I had mine. I called Gregory that night. "Got something?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "One more piece. This one flips the whole narrative." He didn't ask what it was, just said, "Bring it tomorrow." Monday morning, I met him at the Federal Building again. Angela and James were already in the conference room. I handed over the envelope. Angela slid the documents out and scanned the headers. She didn't even finish reading the first page before her mouth tightened. "Board-level planning?" "Exactly," I said. This wasn't about one bad apple. It was culture. They exchanged looks. James stood and left the room. A few minutes later, we were in a full enforcement session. 2 hours in, the board's outside counsel was called. 2 board members joined the meeting by video, red-eyed, stiff, trying to sound calm. Half an hour later, both got up, said they were stepping out temporarily. Only one came back. The other left his phone on the table. By Wednesday morning, Holton's website was stripped down like a crime scene. No leadership bios, no press releases, just a contact form and a bland mission statement. I didn't need confirmation. I already knew. Todd was out, fired for cause. 4 board members resigned within 48 hours of the SEC meeting. And the media, they'd latched on hard. Local papers, business blogs, even national syndicates. My name was out there now. The compliance officer who brought down a giant. Felt weird seeing my face in black and white. That afternoon, I was invited, formally this time, to meet Holton's interim CEO. I almost didn't go, but Barbara said, "Go see what they're offering. Doesn't mean you owe them anything." The new office smelled like fresh paint. Todd's name had been scraped off the glass, and the receptionist didn't make eye contact when she buzzed us in. Patricia Darden was waiting behind the desk. Blazer rolled up at the sleeves, no nonsense. Early 50s, looked like someone who didn't tolerate mess. She stood, extended her hand. "Mr. Weller, thank you for coming in. Didn't think I'd ever be back in this room. Believe me," she said, "neither did I. But we're starting over. And we owe you more than just an apology." She opened a folder, slid a packet across the desk. "Full reinstatement, of course," she said. "Pension, retroactive, lifetime health care, 5 years' salary and a lump sum, and—" She looked me dead in the eye. "A formal consulting role, lead advisor on compliance restructuring." Barbara sat back, arms crossed. "That's a strong offer?" I didn't touch the paper. "I'll think about it," I said. Patricia didn't flinch. "That's fair. Let us know." Back in the car, Barbara was grinning. "That's what fear looks like. It doesn't beg. It pays." But I wasn't smiling, not angry either, just done. They were finally scrambling to clean up a mess I'd warned them about for years. And now they wanted me to help rebuild it. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. I'd already done the hard part, making them face the truth. And that felt better than any check ever could. 6 months later, I sat in the back row of a federal courtroom in downtown St. Paul, arms crossed, suit pressed. Todd sat at the defendant's table, jaw tight, hair thinner, face hollow. He looked 10 years older than the smug bastard who'd handed me that yellow folder. To his right were 2 board members, the same ones who walked out during that SEC meeting. They didn't walk this time. They pled guilty. Securities fraud. No plea deals, no denials. Just folded hands and lawyers who stopped pretending. When the judge read the final counts, Todd didn't blink, didn't speak, just sat there like a man who finally knew the ceiling had fallen in. As they were let out, he turned, just once, and looked at me. Not a word, not a nod, just this long, stunned stare, like he finally realized who I was, and what I'd done. Holton's stock tanked and never came back. They stayed in business, barely. Restructured under some holding group in Delaware. Patricia stayed on. The new compliance team sent me monthly updates, hoping I'd take the consulting job. I didn't. I was already working with regulators full-time, helping other whistleblowers build cases, document clean, stay protected. That part felt real, felt useful. The SEC awarded me 15% of the total penalties collected. It was a big number, bigger than I expected. Between that and my pension, I bought a cabin out near Lake Mille Lacs. Quiet place, no neighbors close enough to bother. Kayla and the grandkids come every weekend. We fish, grill, do puzzles. I sleep better now, deeper. No clock in my head ticking toward Monday. One night on the porch, just the 2 of us, Kayla asked, "Dad, was it worth it? Staying all those years?" I didn't answer right away. Just listened to the lake. Then I said, "I don't regret doing the job right. I regret who I trusted." She nodded like she'd been waiting for that answer. "You taught me something," she said. "That doing the right thing doesn't always pay right away, but it does pay." I looked at her, then back at the water. That was enough. I never wanted to be a headline. I just didn't want them to get away with it.